Hey, Larken Rose here. So often I find myself watching exchanges between liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans, and just being amazed by how stupid and unaware both sides constantly are. And this is another example of that. This happened in the last 2 or 3 days, I think. And on Twitter, you often get things in backwards order. Like first you see somebody's reply, and you go, okay, what was that in reply to? And what was that in reply to? So it starts with somebody on Twitter who goes by, I believe it's the Alice Smith. I should probably know who that is because I'm pretty sure they're a voluntarist, just glancing at their page for 2 seconds. And they made a post mentioning how, like, Hitler and Mao and them, they didn't kill millions of people. The people who obeyed them did. Their public sector employees did. That's not factually debatable. To disagree with that factual statement, you'd have to be literally delusional. That is obviously factually true. Mao didn't go around killing 42 million people by himself. Hitler didn't kill however many million people by himself. Stalin, that's not what happened. People obeyed orders. Now, when I heard the story, I wondered if the original post was a quote of mine that I've seen made into a meme and posted all over the place. It says something like, I'm not afraid of the Hitlers and the Maos in the world. I'm afraid of the people who view them as authority and so do their bidding. That was a paraphrasing, but close enough. So there's a meme, and I thought, is that what happened? So this first post happens, perfectly rational, absolutely indisputably true statement on the Alice Smith account on Twitter. And then Elon apparently tweets that, or, reposts it, whatever. And I forget if he even added any commentary. But then some liberal completely loses his shit. Did you see? Elon said Hitler didn't kill anybody. It's like, now, in cases like this, it's sometimes hard to figure out if that liberal was so colossally stupid that he actually believed the crap he was spewing, or he knew full well he was completely mischaracterizing the point of the original post, which Musk then retweeted. So he's either a colossal moron or a liar, one or the other, but pretty obviously one or the other. Of course it's true. Oh, and then I think in response to that, in response to the liberal having a tantrum, then somebody posted the meme of my quote, which says the same thing in different words. The big scary tyrants, they aren't the ones who actually physically did the damage. They told people to do it, and people dumb enough to think they were authority carried it out. Again, factually indisputable. But, so, obviously there's reason to make fun of the liberal going, how could you say such an obviously factually indisputable truth? Because it's true. If not for the people who obey authority, we wouldn't even know the names of Stalin or Mao or Lenin or Pol Pot or Hitler or any of them. We would never have known their names because they never would have done any significant damage on their own. At least not enough for any of us to have heard of. Like the worst serial killers in history, was it like 30 or something people, which is pretty dang bad, and 100 years later you don't know their names anyway. It's only the people who are perceived to be authority and who have lots of idiotic followers who go and do their bidding. So there's plenty of reason to make fun of the liberal. But the fact that Elon Musk thought that quote was on his side, dude, you're buddying up with an authoritarian control freak who is giving the orders to people to go out and use violence against lots and lots and lots of people. So don't point to that quote as if it's on your side. It's not, dumbass. It's an example of the dangers of people doing what you're doing and what Trump is doing, which is claiming the right to tell people what to do. Now, Trump's just sort of or Elon's just sort of along for the ride. He doesn't actually have any legal power at all, but he has like his influence, and he's putting on a show and pretending to cut waste and stuff while not actually accomplishing that. But for him to be so clueless and so blind. Now, I'm going to throw in, I can still imagine maybe Musk means well. Maybe he totally doesn't. But maybe he's so clueless and delusional that he means well. There are a lot of people that if you put them up close to somebody in power and they think, yeah, we're doing great things, for a while they might think they're doing great things, even if it's by way of government violence. So I'm not even necessarily saying that he's like all the way controlled opposition. I mean, he's obviously a sellout. He's obviously a statist. He's not principled. He doesn't actually believe in freedom, but that's true of almost everybody anyway. So just that alone doesn't mean he's controlled opposition. Donald Trump is absolutely 100% from start to finish, inside out, controlled opposition. He is part of the machine. He always was. He's a clown in a clown show, playing a part to get people riled up and excited for a new political savior. That is, if you understand how these things work and you look at what he actually does versus what he says, that is indisputable. Musk might just be a gullible twit along for the ride. But the fact that he would post that while being buddies and helping out a guy who claims the right to rule and claims authority and is giving orders that is resulting in a bunch of underlings initiating actual violence against actual people, and Musk is so unaware that he would post that quote and think, yeah, this is what I believe in, then why are you doing literally the opposite? Why are you buddying up to an authoritarian psychopath who's sending out people with guns to harm innocent people? Whether it's in the name of border control or all the warmongering crap and we're going to take Gaza and make it beautiful. All his psychopathic ramblings, and his tariffs are threats of force. You don't usually see the force because people pay the extortion racket so that people don't show up to smash their kneecaps. It's still a threat of violence. Tariffs are taxes. They're extortion backed by a threat of violence. If you doubt it, try to bring something into the country without paying the import tax on it. I have a friend of mine who tried that when she was much younger. She went to prison because she brought cigarettes in from Canada. It went very badly. So yes, it's a threat backed by violence, actual caging people for doing something that is not violent and not immoral, like moving a thing over a line without paying tribute to a ruling class. But anyway, obviously there's 8 bazillion ways in which, and them continuing the stupid war on drugs. Again, Musk might be dumb enough to think the war on drugs and outlawing fentanyl and cracking down on those Mexican drug cartels, Musk might be stupid enough to think that's a good idea and it's going to end well. Or it's going to we're going to stamp out drugs. Trump is not that stupid. He knows the problem is directly a result of the war on drugs. He knows that the U.S. government created the Mexican drug cartels by creating this huge profit black market of illegal drugs. Just like they did when they outlawed alcohol. I've been through all that before. You can watch my older videos if you're not aware of the fact that all of the drug cartels in Mexico, all of the street gangs that feed off of drug trade in the U.S., every single one of them exists entirely because of the DEA and the war on drugs at state and federal levels. That's why that violence exists. If they wanted it to end, they would repeal prohibition and it would be gone overnight. Just immediately, exactly as happened with alcohol when that was no longer illegal. So Musk might be dumb enough to not know that. Meanwhile, Trump is sending actual people with actual guns committing actual violence against lots of people who didn't threaten and harm anybody. They may have engaged in trade that government says you're not allowed to do that. So what they're doing is legalized aggression. It's not moral. But hey, a guy in authority said you should go do this violence against nonviolent people. It's almost like Elon Musk just mentioned something about that and was too stupid to notice the hypocrisy. You're a cheerleader for the guy currently doing that. For the guy currently sending out people. Of course, he's just a piece of the machine. He doesn't even actually have any real power himself. But Trump is currently the figurehead of the authoritarian monstrosity that is sending out actual people with actual guns, harming actual people with actual violence because they believe in authority. You are part of the machine doing what you just posted the quote about, and you're too unaware to notice. So for Democrats to complain about that quote is idiotic. For Republicans to post that quote and pretend they agree with it is equally idiotic. None of you believe in freedom. All of you advocate immoral authoritarian aggression against millions of people. You are the enemy of humanity. You are the ones whose crappy belief system results in tons of nonviolent people being brutalized and robbed and extorted and violently dominated and all sorts of stuff. So, but this is just one example of so many times that I see the left and the right arguing, and they're both, first of all, neither of them recognize reality, neither of them has any principles, neither is pro-freedom, and neither of them recognize they're the same thing. They want very slightly different flavors of authoritarian collectivism. They both agree all the human livestock should be robbed. They just disagree about exactly what the stolen loot should be spent on. We should have this big military and this border controls and this, that, the other thing. No, we should have this huge welfare state. But they're both 100% on board, every one of us being robbed. They all view us as livestock and treat us as livestock. They just bicker about the details. And they both totally believe in the monstrosity of authority, and that if the government says, you're not allowed to do that and you have to do that, us mere mortal peasants have an obligation to obey and do whatever they say. They both believe in a ruling class that violently dominates the people. 100%. Every Republican believes that. Every Democrat believes that. Every voter believes that. And well, my ruling class would rob you a little bit less and would let you be free in this area and this area. Not in this area and that area, but in these ones it would. Okay, that is no fundamental difference. You're all authoritarian collectivists. You're all stuck in slave think. You're just arguing about the details of how you think the master should treat his livestock. That's the only difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. So when either one of them pretends to argue from principle and righteousness and freedom, it's just so pathetically bogus and dishonest. And it's almost every debate you'll ever see between Democrats and Republicans. Both of them are absolute liars. Neither of them believe in freedom. Neither of them even believe in the Constitution, which that isn't even freedom. It's just watered down authoritarianism. But so I thought this story was frustrating and amusing at the same time, that Musk would post that and a liberal would lose his shit over it. Both of you are absolutely advocates of exactly the evil that quote describes. An authoritarian ruling class that tells people, go enforce this because we have declared it to be law. And then both imagine, we're the righteous people fighting against injustice and authoritarianism. No, you're not. If you're a Republican, you're not. If you're a Democrat, you're not. If you believe in government, you're not. The only people in the world who are actually anti-authoritarian and actually advocate human freedom are voluntarists. And I'll end with this. I've said it before. This is a very simple choice. In this case, it's binary. There are two options. Anarchists believe in the political concept of anarchy, which literally just means rule by no one. So there's one group of people. They don't want you ruled by anybody. They don't want them ruled by anybody either. They don't want anybody ruled by anybody. Rule by no one. Then there is the rest of the world. If you are not an anarchist who advocates rule by no one, then by definition and automatically, you advocate rule by someone. You can bicker about the details. Well, who should rule and what side? What should be the form? What should be the style? What flavor of authoritarianism? But every single person who is not an anarchist advocates the existence of ruling classes, because that's how words work. There's rule by no one, or there's rule by somebody in some arrangement of something or other. If you're an anarchist, it's because you believe in ruling classes. If you believe in ruling classes, whether it's Republican, Democrat, whatever, socialist, fascist, whatever, constitutionalist, Republican, blah, 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 don't pretend to have principles. Don't pretend to care about freedom. Don't pretend to be against the establishment. You just want a different authoritarian establishment. Very slightly different. But it's so weird to watch different sets of bootlicking statists try to wave the flag of freedom and justice. Put down the flag. You are absolutely advocates of authoritarian domination, and you are absolutely the philosophical enemies of actual freedom and justice. And you will be until you stop being statists.